DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool. Tonight's DJNTV show is sponsored in part by Electro Voice, DJ Event Planner, ADJ, NLFX Professional, Promo Only, and DJNTV Insiders.
It's time for Tuesday Night Live Chat with Brian S. Red and John Young. Good evening and welcome to tonight's book club meeting starring Brian and John. Tonight's book we're going to be talking about... Dang, I forgot my book.
Me too.
Well,
no book to be had anywhere around
not
here.
so much. Not so much. So we're gonna stray from the book read and we'll talk DJ. And
yeah,
tonight,
sounds good.
Tonight, Brian, I wanted to talk about, as you probably saw the graphic that Jimmy put together for us.
Yeah, I think I was supposed to be the guy.
Something. So for those of you who don't know, Jimmy has way too much fun when I give him a topic that's like, oh yeah, we're going to talk about this tonight. Jimmy has way too much fun. Giggle, giggle, laugh in putting this together. And you guys get to see some of them that's after I have him tone them down a little bit. Yeah. Jimmy.
Well, at least he's having fun.
Yeah, he's having a good time.
It's all in good fun.
Yeah, it's all it is.
It's all in good fun.
So tonight I want to talk about kind of the state of the DJ industry, and specifically is what kind of brought this on is that, Brian, you and I get to talk to a lot of people and see a lot of things. Some, in a public realm, some of it in a private realm. We get to hear about how things are going out there. We're at the Marquee show a little bit, so we got to talk to some DJs and we talked to some of the vendors and such. So there's some things that are going on within that realm. And what kind of brings that to my attention is that we have a lot of folks who watch who don't get out to these things. They don't really engage much beyond our Thursdays, or Tuesday night groups thing. And there's things that are changing out there. There's things that are evolving and such. And I really wanted to kind of look at some different aspects of and kind of break things down and talking about some points. So I wanted to throw these out at you because I know how much you enjoy for me to throw bombs out there and then you just kind of...
Stuff we haven't discussed and I just riff.
Yeah, you just rip on it a while. So yeah, his Secret Service thing. I like, I can rock the dress. I'm sorry. It was John looking, in the Hillary dress. I've been working out. My calves look really nice. Okay, so... Anyway, getting back to our topic. So one of the things I wanted to kind of talk about is specifically we're going to kind of break it. This will be kind of talking about attitudes within the industry and how I want to kind of talk about how the attitudes of these different areas have changed in the last maybe 10 to 15 years. And let's kind of start on how DJs, the attitude of DJs, if we'd have been talking to DJs 10 years ago and they would have been sharing some of the problems and struggles they had 10 years ago compared to some of the things we're hearing and seeing today is what I really want to look at and such. Because we hear, as we look in the chat rooms in the Facebook groups and different things, you can see that there's a lot of struggle going on out there.
But there always has been. I mean, this is nothing new. They might be complaining about something different, but they're always complaining. They've always complained, haven't they? Really?
To a point, I think there's always been.
It's just kind of, where their focus is on their grievances changed. Sometimes it's the same rhetoric that I hear. But I don't know. What were you thinking?
That was one of the points. Really, one of the definitely points I wanted to make is that we on the chat boards we hear people talking about, they didn't hire me because they went with someone, $50, $100 cheaper.
Oh,
you and I,
we've heard
the money thing since the second day we were in business. It's always been there.
The beginning of time. Yeah.
It's always
something new.
It's always been there. And then, probably the more modern thing that we see is when complaining about, and it's modern, this is within that 10 to 15 years ago, is once the music side wasn't a barrier to entry. When we had to buy our music, that was a barrier to entry. It isn't there anymore.
Right.
And that's probably a more modern complaint and such. But even with that, the attitude of the DJ that they need to change and evolve, and we've talked about this in past shows, how many DJs really want to change and evolve is really what I've gotten down to. I was talking to a couple of DJs who are just a little bit older than you and I, and they were like, they're coming to the conclusion that, in order to survive, we're going to have to change. We're going to have to do things differently because having these 10 songs are no longer a big thing because everyone's got these 10 songs. Having all these blinky lights doesn't mean anything anymore. Now we have to change.
Right.
And I wonder, is it an ego thing why DJs don't want to do that and it's easier to point fingers and blame? Is it a laziness? I mean, where does it fall?
I really believe it's like anything else. I mean, I'll be the first one to complain sometimes about the music I'm hearing on Top 40 radio. I don't like it. But the thing is that it's not really for me. It's aimed at a much younger market. The music for me happened 30 years ago. It was supposed to anyway. I still do like some new things, but my generation's music happened 30 years ago. I got used to a certain thing, and it's what I liked, and when it changes, I don't like it. Now, again, is it great? I mean, that's up for debate. We can all talk about that, and we could probably talk about it with somebody like Rick Webb, who's in the room. I mean, he would be a younger guy than me, not young by any stretch. He's a man. He's, but he's a younger man than I am. So he might have a bit of a different perspective on it than I do. But it's a coming of age thing, I believe. It's a generation thing. When you get used to doing something and you find a formula and you find your niche and it works really well for you, and then all of a sudden something new comes along and you've got to start over again in certain realms of what you do, it's hard. Like, hey, wait a minute, I've paid my dues. Why do I have to do it again? Because that's how it is. That's this industry. You have to constantly evolve.
Yeah.
And if you can't constantly evolve, then you can't stay in this industry successfully. I've seen it happen with everybody from DJs to agencies you see it with clubs all the time, right? You see clubs come and go. Why? Because something new came along and they couldn't compete with it anymore. It happens with DJs too. There are so many DJs in my town that have been active for years, and they're just not operating on the same level that they did in their heyday. And part of that has a lot to do with the fact that they are still trying to do the same thing that they were doing in their heyday. And it has a limited audience at best. So, yeah, I mean, you and I both know DJs older than us who are very busy. But we also know DJs younger than us that aren't, that were at one time. So who's evolving, who's adapting, who's changing and rolling with the punches? Those are the people who are going to be successful in this business. And those who aren't willing to do that are going to fall to the side. It's harsh, it's ugly, but it's what it is.
I think one of the things that somebody had posted talked about heat and how that affected their physical. And again, there are people in our age that 50, late 40s, early 50s, and they were talking about how heat is killing them down with their shows down in the South a little bit. And a number of people were like, "Yep, man, same me," and same thing here. And there's, okay, so the body or the mind might be there and the desire might be there, but unfortunately sometimes the body
Tell me about it.
doesn't
Tell me about it.
Yeah.
You're talking to somebody who's definitely got some body problems.
Yeah. And
you got to adapt.
And it's the the evolving.
You have to adapt. That is just kind of a given, I think. I don't think that everybody's going to have to do this, no matter what field of work that you're in. What I was actually having a conversation about, I don't know if I was having it with anyone or I was just lecturing, probably while you were on the air with others, is kind of what do our clients want? And I posted this question on Facebook. I made a video response to it, but I asked the question just to kind of see where people's heads were, and it was no surprise that within an hour there were over 40 responses, and most of them overwhelmingly had to do with they want free, they want cheap DJs, they don't want to pay any money, they want everything for nothing. And we've heard this before, haven't we?
Oh, certainly.
We have heard this before.
We used to refer to them as yellow page brides. You remember that they were the yellow page brides. Oh yeah, the ones calling from our yellow page ad and they're wanting something for nothing type of situation.
You do have that, but I think assuming that this is ultimately what's going on here is strictly a price thing all the time is very misinformed. I think we need to dig a little deeper into this and figure out, is this a cause or effect thing, if that makes any sense? Are they asking for a lower price? Is price really the issue, or is there something else affecting this notion of lower price? I believe a lot of the time it's something affecting that. And I was just thinking, if you can have some empathy for your client out there, they're trying, okay, and I'm talking about mobile DJs. I'm not talking about club guys or bar guys or DJs who are working in establishments where they're trying to turn a profit. Okay, if that's your case, then I feel like, yeah, of course, it's a bar. They want to go ahead and they don't want to blow more than they're going to make that night on their DJ.
Oh, for
they
sure.
want to profit, so they got to do something about that. But when we're talking about a quinceañera, wedding reception, party of some kind, just a private event, this is an emotional thing that's happening. This isn't like a business transaction. They're not thinking of it that way as much as they would if it was some kind of fundraiser or for-profit event and they were trying to bring people into the door, So I'm thinking, I'm trying to put myself in the client's place, having some empathy. Okay, yeah, I was at a party a week ago, let's just say, or last month or last year, it doesn't really matter what. And I didn't have a good time. I didn't enjoy the DJ. And, I think if the DJ would have done this, and this, it would have been a much better event. So, wow, you know what? If I could find somebody who simply followed these guidelines that I'll give them, I will have a successful party. That's where I think sometimes this money thing comes into play. Because what the customer really wants, I think, are two things. They want the comfort that they've done everything in their power to ensure a successful event. And then during and after the gig, they want the satisfaction that they actually had a successful event. The money thing and all that during and after the event isn't nearly as important as the result of the event. So I guess what I was just kind of thinking with that, with this rambling notion I'm going on with here, is that, perhaps the money thing isn't the main thing they're concerned with. What they're really concerned with is a control thing. And they feel like they have to have control over the DJ to ensure the event, being successful. So as the DJ, as the person on the phone or the person at the meeting or whatever, I think it's our job to help show them out a little bit and give them the comfort that this is the right choice. Going with me or going with, whoever you are. Look, we've done this before. We understand how events work. We understand how stressful they can be. We know what works. We know what doesn't work. We're here for you and we want to work with you. So I'm a good choice for you because I'm going to help give you comfort that you've done everything you can to ensure this event success. I think it's that simple sometimes. But what people do is all they hear is this money thing,
Oh yeah.
and they just assume that that's the issue, where it's just kind of part of the issue sometimes. Does that make any sense?
Oh, it certainly does. Certainly does.
You can say no.
And no, you and we've talked about how you know your methodology and how you communicate. Did you communicate with your couples when you were selling someone a wedding 15 years ago that way?
Not, I don't think it, I don't know. Maybe, yeah, I think I did. I mean, but I think 15 years ago is what you said.
Yeah.
I think 15 years ago, we all kind of were standardized on our pricing. If we were priced different, it was only a few $100.
Yeah,
Today,
we were very close. Yeah,
it's very different. It's very different because there's more out there in the market.
Mm-hmm.
There, like you said, music is accessible. You can just go buy stuff. It's relatively inexpensive and call yourself a DJ. It's not as hard as it used to be. So there's a lot more price competition out there. But, you know, I think a lot of people have seen that. They've seen these, you know, folks that just have a great idea to go out and, you know, be a DJ with little to no experience or knowledge on how this really works. They do parties or events. People see this, and the perception they have is, DJs aren't great. You know, this guy completely flopped it. Didn't sound good. Didn't look good. Nobody danced, or very few danced, and it wasn't cool. So all things being the same, as long as I am able to control this DJ with these things that I've come up with or that I feel would work well, it doesn't matter how much I pay him. Just so he does these things will be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you definitely
They have the best intention.
I think you definitely see a level of that when you're talking to clients and such nowadays. Is that you've got some that want to have that higher level of control. I mean, I even a wedding I'm going to be doing in August they have a planner, and she spent about 15 to 20 minutes talking and such back and forth with me to find out what I'm going to be doing.
But you have to somehow
out at Zoom. There we are. We're back there, and we're there. Do we have live? Are we?
I don't know.
I don't either.
Are you saying anything? In chat if we're on.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Back.
We are back.
Yeah, they're saying things now.
Don't.
Okay.
Don't.
So you can hear this, right? All right. So we're back.
We are.
You're back.
Howie
says we're back. Okay.
Okay. Wow.
So let's carry on.
So
shall we?
So what? Now we'll jump to part 2, or the next aspect of it. I wanted to talk about kind of looking at the manufacturer side, and I want to open this up to not just the gear manufacturers, because we both spent some time with Nick Hahn at Marquee Show and chatted with him, but the different services the different businesses that service the DJ industry, because they're experiencing a change.
Yes, they are.
And kind of talk a little bit. Start us off with that. What kind of things are you hearing from from these different businesses that are trying to, solicit work with the DJ industry?
Well, it's one of those things where I think what happened was, for a while, DJ was hot. You know, the DJ business was hot. Even through the recession, it was recession proof.
Sure.
These companies who were making products for the DJ industry were doing extremely well. There were all kinds of neat ideas out there, and the DJs were very open to them. But I believe what's happening now is that the DJ business of things for these manufacturers, for many of them, not all, but many of them, has gone soft. It's not what it used to be. And a lot of companies are switching their efforts to different markets, like install, or larger events, or club, or house of worship, perhaps. It's different. And you're seeing, I believe you're seeing less and less products out there specifically made for us as well. Now, unfortunately, sometimes, not always, but sometimes it does feel like the creative bit for us DJs and kind of addressing some of our needs and wants just isn't there either. Not always, but sometimes. We're getting things, but we're not getting anything that's revolutionary. We're not getting anything that's really changing how we do things. It's just a different game now. It's very different, and this might go in phases. It might come back or whatever. But right now, these companies are finding that they can do a lot better focusing on other places out there within our industry other than mobile DJ stuff.
Kind of reminds me
I'm saying.
Back in the 80s, when there really wasn't specific or many mobile DJ specific companies in the early 80s. We as DJs were having to go buy sound equipment and things that were band equipment and using that to do our shows and things. And there's almost a point of, as we're talking to some of these manufacturers, that you're getting that feeling again, is that the mobile DJ market, there's a lot of DJs out there, true, but it's such a tough market to make money in financially for these manufacturers now, for whatever reason, whether it's direct sales from China, whether it's the influx of everybody can make a speaker, whatever, that you're having some of the major companies that are starting to say, we're going to go to creating things for the house of worship, lighting for that.
Diversifying.
Yeah, and now it's back in the 80s when what were DJ lights? Well, either you made them yourself or you were buying par 64s or par 56s, and whatever else the bands used, and that's what your lighting was, because that's all that was available out there at the time.
Yeah, we might have to be creative again. So to a point. I mean, there's always going to be products out there for us, but yeah, not like there used to be. Not like there was for a while. So yeah, it's just changing. I mean, I was talking about just the controller thing the other day, for example, mixing boards and controllers. And it just seems like, for a long time, when DJ mixers came out, you could pretty much depend on a real solid microphone input and a quality DJ mixer that you paid up for. The good stuff. Now, it doesn't exist. Nobody wants to put good mic inputs on anything that's got DJ stamped on it. I can't think of one modern piece that I ever heard about that has this great microphone input with a 3-band EQ, and the impedance is proper, and the gain isn't touchy, and you don't get a lot of feedback. It just doesn't exist.
Yeah. And
this seems like it should be like the easiest thing to do. Our music sounds fine as far as I'm concerned. Through a good mixer, our music sounds fantastic. And it's digital, and I've got no complaint there. But how come, nobody cares whether or not we have a good microphone or not on our mixing boards and controllers? No one seems to. Unless I'm missing something. If there is, let me know what it is. I hear the complaint all the time. Everybody's going out and buying these secondary microphone mixers to be able to pull off a karaoke gig or even pull off a nice toast at a wedding.
Yes. And that was what, my video today was all about that second micro or mixer. And unfortunately,
I saw it. Part of it.
Yeah. That's what I need though. When I'm doing a wedding, I have to have that second source, because if I try to use that second input on my Denon, which, you know, again, I'm not trying to belittle Denon because this is common across the board. I was at a wedding where a guy had a beautiful Pioneer and his second microphone input sucked. It was like, oh my gosh, here I was feeling bad about my Denon. And now this Pioneer that's you know, $1,200 or $1,000, whatever it was doing the same thing.
Sure. Well, you know, Pioneer is a weird one. And I was telling somebody this the other day. I made a comment, I don't remember, but in regards to mixers, okay, especially in the audio market, we have to consider who's producing these and what companies are producing these. And a lot of them are Asian companies.
Mm-hmm.
So in Asia, the concept of the mobile DJ is so foreign in a lot of countries. Like Japan, for instance. You got karaoke and you got club DJ. They don't understand what a mobile DJ is or what they do. And in their way of thinking, they're thinking to themselves, why would we bother to put all this effort into a microphone and a DJ mixer? Because DJs just don't use microphones.
Yeah.
And there they don't. But in the Western world, we absolutely do. And I think even in some other parts of Asia, some parts of Western Asia, or in the Middle East, or in Africa, they're using this stuff. But for some reason, it's just not getting through to them, and it's just not important to them. And they don't feel like it's a big sales point. Well, I'm telling you right now, if somebody came up with a solid mixing board or controller, and they said, hey, look, we've also got fantastic dual microphone inputs with great EQs on them, and they sound good, and they're not, you know, they're good.
Yeah.
Somebody would buy it, man. You know, and that's the sad thing about it too. We talk about where the industry is and how, you know, they feel like it's soft. Yet there are products out there that we're not seeing really that we want.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, we're seeing a lot of things we have in the past, though. And I said this in a video the other day. You know, the industry does make some cool stuff for us. I mean, how far can you really go with this? We've got some really cool stuff out there that have changed the way we all do things. Me being a disabled person, I can go out and gig now very easily. If I hadn't put together that micro system 7 years ago, where everybody said it was impossible, today it's incredibly possible because that's where the industry's gone. Smaller footprint, big boom, right? You know, so that's changed. That's better. You know, how much further can we take it? I think is where they're at. You know, and sometimes, you know, okay, here we are. This is as far as we can go. On the other hand, there are things out there that we would love to have as an industry.
Yep.
We would pay money for, and nobody's making it because they're not thinking about us right now. They're thinking about some other stuff. Their focus has changed. And I mean, the writing's been on the wall for a long time, and I've always tried to remain an optimist, but look, here we are. This is what it is.
We've got a couple of comments here I want to address here on from Facebook. We've got some pretty good stuff, good chat going there. So thank you guys for being with us. Bernard mentions that with Denon being on par with Pioneer, that mentioning that they probably need to have a couple of bigger name DJs. I'm guessing that the idea of having DJs who are being continuing down, being asked to test these things and to getting the input from DJs. Some of these companies, I know some are very good at getting feedback from working DJs, and there have been companies out there, one of which that's gone, that had no clue of how to get the input from a working DJ. They just basically figured if we build it, they will come to us.
Yeah.
So do they communicate they're not listening to DJs? Yeah, that could definitely.
Or they're focused on a different market. I mean, let's talk about Pioneer for a minute. I mean, it's kind of a club standard. It has been for a long time. You go into a club, it's on a lot of like these superstar touring DJs, writers that they get Pioneer stuff. So they're not really using the mic.
Yeah.
And so that's how Pioneer's looking at it, I think. Or companies like Pioneer is like, well, you know, the superstar doesn't use it, so why does, you know, this guy in Milwaukee need one? Well, I do. I need one.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got to run something to help. Otherwise, I got problems. I mean, I get by. Don't get me wrong. I mean, a lot of these microphones, they'll get you by, but boy, that's the hardest part of my job is mic teching, be it a ceremony or
Yes.
toast or whatever. Make it easy for me. Just please make it easier for me. That would be wonderful. I would pay money for that. I think a lot of you would.
Chris mentions, of course, the hooking up microphones and having to adjust to get the volume, the audio from the microphones to sound decent over the music, and the struggles with that on a Newmark. I have the same issue with my Denons. I struggle with the audio sound, and I've got the 6000. I've had both the 6000s, the 7000, 8000, and I at some volumes and such, it's very easy and everything's fine, and both mics sound great. And then there's other volumes where the main mic sounds okay, and the secondary mic sounds like it leaves a lot. There's a lot lacking. And yet, if I take this board right here to my right, which is a I don't know, it's got 6 inputs and it has the outputs and everything, so I could run microphones into that. Different world, just a completely different world. But
Well, I know that I've had issues at events recently where it's like, wow, you need like a little more gain out of this microphone, and you get on the mic gain and you barely turn the thing, and it's like you're feeding back. It's like, why is this happening?
yes, so quickly.
It's so hot. Why is this mic gain so incredibly hot? This isn't right.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get on like a regular mixer, and you creatively run your microphone through it, which I've done, with gadgets and things just to kind of get that mic input that I want. And it's not that way. It's normal. My music gain isn't hot like that.
Mm-hmm.
Why is my mic so hot like that? It's bizarre, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of things that I think that the industry should look at and say, hey, you know what? Let's figure out who we're selling our products to and give them some things that, they may like. I think Pioneer tried like 10 years ago. They came out with that DJM 5000, and that was a nice piece. And it had 2 mic inputs on it. They were solid. They had effects on them. It was a 3-band EQ. Was very happy with them, but it was in a 19-inch rack mount mixing board. And a lot of DJs were starting to go more to the club mixer format and just smaller footprint, not hauling around 19-inch rack mountable pieces. And I wonder sometimes if somebody at Pioneer said to themselves, oh yeah, well, it didn't sell like crazy, so let's just not do that anymore. That wasn't appealing to people. I don't think it had anything to do with the microphones. The microphones were a positive thing. It had to do with the footprint of the piece itself.
Yeah, it just wasn't the direction.
Well, it was a direction, but it wasn't the direction. If they would have tried it on another piece, I think they would have found, been pleasantly surprised that we would have been just crazy about it.
Mm-hmm. I
mean, I would enjoy a mixing board with two line levels on it, maybe switchable, auxiliary, and USB. 2 solid microphones on it, and no effects. I would be happy with that. Yeah, I don't need these effects, but they feel like this is what sells these products, so they pack into them. And in a certain part of the market, it does. It does. But I don't know. Again, we're adapting to things that aren't really made for us, and this is a perfect example of that. So that's what we have to do.
Yeah.
We have to go out and do these things because they're not really thinking about us sometimes, unfortunately. A perfect example of adapting. This is the kind of stuff you'd have done in the 80s.
And that is kind of, there's so many similarities. It's like that whole, how history repeats itself. And
yeah.
And here it's like, oh yeah, I find myself, especially again, getting with this microphone situation, is we can't find what we need. So now we have to compromise. And now I'm bringing a band, like my wedding, I'll be doing, this Friday, I'll be just using the board and everything will be happy. But the wedding then that comes after that is going to be a 2-mixer setup, because I want to have three wireless microphones that sound really, really good.
I mean, if you don't mind, I'd like to take a minute just to be positive. I mean, there are some really cool things that have come out in the last couple of years that have really changed the way we do things. They're good. I think about that LD Systems Maui 5 Go battery powered array for wedding ceremonies under $1,000. That's cool. That's something we asked for. That's something we wanted.
Yeah, for sure.
FBTCS 1000, Evolve 50. You know, what was the RCF Evox? This is stuff that we wanted, and it's changed the way we think about providing sound reinforcement at events. This is good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not all doom and gloom, folks. I don't
Yeah.
want to suggest that. There's just a few places where I really feel like the mark's been missed. And if there are companies out there suggesting that, you know what, the DJ market's soft, you missed a few places that you could have made out well.
Mm-hmm. I think
Good
so.
name for yourself.
And I think there's, another, we're getting back to kind of the theme that you hit earlier, that needing to evolve or you're going to die. And these manufacturers need to do that. I mean, I applaud both Electro Voice and RCF. They're going to these array systems because more DJs are doing these smaller parties than, I mean, in the 80s, 90s, early 90s, weddings had 400 and some people here, more often than not. Don't have that today. And I would think in 2 or 3 years, my average wedding will be easily under 100 people. Who I would have never guessed that at that particular time, because I was looking at contracts probably a year and a half ago, and Lori and I were laughing, is 500 guests at a wedding, 425 guests, and the expected. And these were the forms that came back 2 weeks before. So by then the RSVPs were back, and these were semi-legit numbers. You just don't have that. So the manufacturers of these audio systems, seeing that that's a market trend, have developed things that we can utilize and such.
Right.
It's a good thing. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. Yes, littered with parody in a DJ industry. That's a good way to say it. The wedding mixer, Matt mentioned maybe they need to create a wedding mixer. I really thought that Denon, when they created the 4000, that could have been, if that would have had the inputs, 2 good mic inputs, that unit probably would have been a DJ wedding controller. It's like that close. The 7000 is too big. I mean, I love the machine, and that's what I use, but realistically, it's a monster. 8000 is even a bigger monster. Quick, compact, that would be awesome.
No, we got to adapt, man. And that this is exactly what we all need to start thinking about. I mean, yeah, we could come out here and whinge about the kind of stuff we whinged about tonight, or we can look at situations and say, okay, these are the tools available, some pretty neat stuff out there. We got to put it together so it works for us, and go with it. If I'm right, and the focus is going away from our particular niche market, it's not like nothing will be made that we can't use.
For sure.
So we carry on. I think the LD Systems Maui 5 Go is made for busking. I mean, I look at that thing, and I kind of think that's what was going on there.
I think I actually have seen some people who do that type of performance, the street performance, and they've talked about using it for that, and they're like, oh, and it lasts for hours, and they just absolutely love it.
Yeah, but we can adapt it and use it for what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Makes it interesting.
I haven't seen one in Vegas. Obviously, there's many street performers who are using their portable sound systems. It was interesting when we were down there for the hardware show. Those little Bose powered speakers, the new one. I bet I saw 10 of them down there. Those
were the right size for doing that. Yeah,
they were all over, and the Maui system again will be the nice part about that is it gets those highs up a little bit higher, so it's going to cover an area much better than all the sound firing at your ankles. But
I think that's more of a East Coast thing right now. It's a very German piece, and hopefully I've introduced it to some wedding guys. Some wedding guys introduced it to me, so hopefully the word spreads around because I think it's solid. But but yeah, it's not the household name that Bose is perhaps, and but yeah, I can give it time. But yeah, I mean that's just an example of adapting something that probably wasn't really made for us, but works well for us. Things like ADJ's My DMX RM was not made for us. That was built, I think, with the church market in mind, where they were thinking, hey, if we've got this church, in Grays Lake, Minnesota,
Gray Eagle.
Great. Where do you live?
Gray Eagle. You
Oh,
know,
sorry. We have a church in Gray Eagle, Minnesota, and we have we don't have our lighting guy there every Sunday. Maybe we can bring the lighting guy in from the next big town over to load this rack mountable piece up with some comprehensive shows for the service. And John Young's kid can sit up there during the service and hit the corresponding buttons to whatever's going on in the service. That might be cool. Maybe that would be a product that people would like. And I looked at it and I said, wow, this would be great for mobile guys. What if we had downloadable shows that we could just load into this thing? We wouldn't have to know DMX. We wouldn't have to have an extra computer or this hooked up to a computer at all. We just press and get things. An idea. I don't know if it would ever take off, but I'm thinking of ways that we could adapt that to what we do. Even though it wasn't particularly made for us, it might be something cool that we could use. So maybe that's really what we can take out of all of this is we're going to go back. But this has been the way of our business all along. Do you think Technics 1200s are made for scratching? No.
no.
No. No. They weren't even made for discos. They were made for home use. But discos liked them, so they used them.
And then
they could mix these with them with the big pitch and, the big start stop button, quartz drive. Then Grandmaster Flash got a hold of these things and created a whole new culture. And here we are today. I mean, they weren't made for that, but we're using them for that.
We got a few more minutes here, Brian. I want to kind of wrap up our last little part here, talking about educational opportunities for DJs, specifically thinking about what's available for education at your fingertips today for DJs compared to what it was for us when we were first starting out. Oh, and basically to a point that, excluding misinformation that's out there, but really today it's kind of a golden age for DJs to be able to learn their craft with the information at their fingertips like no other time in history.
For anyone to learn anything.
Anything, yes. That's true.
It doesn't matter what it is. If you want to do something, whether it's a small repair on your vehicle or something big, you can watch a video on this.
Yeah.
People have this content out there absolutely free. You might have to watch ads or something, but it's free content. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an amazing time. I think there are pros and cons to that. I think the pro is that, yeah, it's accessible and you can jump into something and you can learn and you can absorb. You have to learn how to weed out what you like and what you don't like, of course, and what, there are going to be opinions out there. I have them on my channel. I've got really strong opinions on certain things. I go back and watch some of my old videos and I don't agree with the opinions that I expressed on my old videos. So I understand. I mean, you're going to have to weed through all of it. But once you find somebody you trust and somebody you like and somebody who you feel like is giving you, good information, yeah, it's perspective and it's discussion and it provokes thought. That's a good thing. The only problem with it all, John, and I don't know if you feel me on this or not, but I feel like it really homogenizes everything that we do.
I could see that.
I mean, I think about house music in Chicago. All right. House music happened in Chicago. And it really popped around 1984, 1985. It was huge. The whole city, a huge city too. Metropolitan area just got scooped up by this whole thing. WBBX, Hot Mix 5, club culture, Frankie Knuckles, all the, Farley Jack Master Funk, you have all this stuff. I'm 80 miles away and I didn't hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how it was back then. They were doing something completely different down there that we were doing 80 miles away. And you see the same thing over, like if you think about music in general, what's going on over in England? You've got your bands from Manchester and your bands from Liverpool. Do you know how close Manchester and Liverpool are?
Not very.
They're like an hour away from each other.
Yeah, not very far at all.
You just drive from one to the next. No big deal. They speak different in each place, and they got a different music scene in each place. And then you got Manchester. That's not much further away. It's a small little place. I mean, England is smaller than Wisconsin, I think. But you've got all these little regions of England where there's all these different sounds coming out of. But I don't know if you'd ever have that today because everything is so incredibly homogenized. Everybody's kind of doing the same thing. They're kind of got the same influences. It's wonderful to share the ideas, and maybe ultimately this is positive, but yeah, that's the disadvantage.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's an East Coast thing going on. No, there's not. It's happening everywhere.
Yeah, pretty much across the globe now because of that.
Yeah, it's that part may or may not be. I don't know. That may or may not be a positive thing, but I don't know. Eventually, everything's going to be so incredibly homogenized. It's not going to matter where you live or what you do. It's all going to be the same. And I see that happening with this. But aside from that, yeah, great, awesome. Yeah, I'm part of the problem, if anything, because I've been throwing it out there for 12 years.
And I wouldn't say it's part of the problem. I think it's part of the benefit for people who are getting into this, because now they can come into it, and we've been able to help them not make some of the mistakes that we made over and over and over again. And that learning curve, it's cool to be able to see people who have utilized some of that information to be able to improve and grow a lot quicker than anything we ever did. And it's I've got a 15-year-old. He can do things with his machines that I couldn't do, and I still can't do. Part of it's because of an innate talent he has, and part of it's because of practice and learning and research that wasn't available when I was first learning how to, we took my early learning was to, taking that pencil and rewinding the tape. That was our method of mixing songs.
Right.
That's how it was back. So,
I mean, Stacy Zeman wrote that book. Was it in the 90s she wrote that?
Oh boy, I don't remember when exactly. 90s early.
It was like the first one like that, you know? That was what was out there, her book. And it was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
She put a lot of thought into it. It's just not like that now.
Yeah.
I mean, you can grab it from anywhere. A book like that, as good as the book was, it's just a different world now.
1997 is what it's saying here.
Yeah, it's in the late 90s. So, I think it's just about adapting. Really, it's about adapting. And just being a Rolling Stone. You have to. Rolling Stone gathers no moss. So as long as we're not gathering moss, we're going to be okay.
Yeah, we are. Well, thank you guys for being with us tonight. I apologize for our little glitch in the middle. I have no idea what caused that, but hopefully you still were able to get a little bit out of our rambling and discussions tonight.
Yeah, it's very rambly tonight.
This our schedules for the next few weeks are going to be we'll have our Monday night shows and Tuesday night. Wednesdays and Thursdays are going to be kind of hit and miss with other shows. Casey and Brian are going to be on Thursdays, but things are going to be kind of soft here in July and early August because we've got family vacation, on my side.
Scared me to death.
And then
my phone scared me.
It's bringing. And
that's how much of a cripple I am.
We have DJ Expo coming up, so we'll have that. So just kind of hang on with us. Watch the different Facebook pages and such for upcoming scheduled events and things, and we'll be back. Let's see, tomorrow's fishing day with my children, so I'll be gone tomorrow. But we'll catch you Thursday night, and then we'll be back next week. Thanks everyone for watching. Good night, everyone.